I can get somebody better with them eating McDonald's every single meal, like no joke, if they deal with the stress. If somebody does not deal with the stress and eats a perfect diet, I cannot. It's not just stress. It's not like, oh, I was stressed out. It's a very particular moment in time. Whether somebody believes a food is good or bad is like literally the most basic psychology ever. Do they think it's going to be good for them, or do they think it's going to be bad for them? Finding that moment is super important, and a lot of people don't get anywhere near close to that moment.
Hey, I'm so glad you're here today. We created this podcast for one reason and one reason only, to help you level up and raise your standards in every aspect of your life. Your standards around the food you eat, the people you surround yourself with, and the way you manage stress, and the way you sleep, move, think, and show up in your life. We're living in a time where digestive issues, burnout, and chronic symptoms are exploding, mainly because our lifestyle is out of alignment. We're rushing, we're stressed, we're even eating distracted, and mostly because we're living in this fight or fight instead of a rest and digest. So we built this platform to speak with some of the world's greatest gut experts to bring you the tools, the science, and the perspective you need to level up. So if you're ready to become the strongest, healthiest, and most intentional version of yourself, subscribe, join us, and let's raise the bar together. Without further ado, let's hop into the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the BioBelly Show. Today's guest is someone who I deeply admire and whose work comes from living experience, not just theory, right? So Mike, many of you know him as the Heal Your Gut guy, was diagnosed with Crohn's disease back in 2010 around. And for years, his life revolved around the bathroom, right? We're talking 10 plus episodes of diarrhea every single day. We're talking constant gut pain. We're talking severe inflammation around the stomach, small intestine, and colon, and even a painful fistulas that I'm learning more and more with him, right? And this is I'm learning more and more about Mike. Eating became super scary, right? Of course, as the guts connect to the body, his skin started suffering, his weight dropped to a dangerous place, and like so many people listening, Mike did everything he was told to do, right? He followed the playbook, the medications, the diet, the holistic approaches, and one after another, none of it truly worked. Now, this is what makes Mike's story super powerful. It's not that he healed, but it's how he did it, right? So when he finally learned the right information and applied it in a structured step-by-step way, everything changed for him, right? Within about 30 years, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, he went from surviving to actually living again, right? So formed stools, clear skin, no gut pain, no fear around food, and healthy weight gain, where he's like, I even saw an image of him like 200 pounds, like nice and, bulky. And that was without, right? That was without forcing or suffering through it.
I was stuck at 150, 160 pounds.
Oh my God.
Up till the age of 30, I got to that weight around like 20, and I just stayed at that weight, no matter how much I ate, no matter how much I worked out. And it wasn't until I started doing the mental stuff to fix my gut issues. It was just like within a year, I was at like 200 pounds. Now I think I'm like 210, 220. I probably need to lose weight, but that's like I've never ever had to lose weight my whole entire life, and I don't do anything special. Like I just I don't even know how many calories I consume.
Michael, that's what's super fascinating to me. A lot of the expert gut, like the gut experts, the IBS dietitians that we speak with, they do have a very strong narrative around healthy diet, great amounts of fiber, but and of course that's something that's a common point with you as well. But I love how you focus a little less on diet, right? And a little bit more on leveraging the brain gut axes. I was wondering if you can expand a little bit about just your overall your overall perspective on what really is the driving force of these gut issues here.
Well, for when I kind of gave up on doing modern medicine and the drug stuff because, I did the biologics and I did all that stuff for, I don't know, a couple of years. I started trying the diets. I tried, I don't know, specific carbohydrate, GAPS diet, all that stuff. And I did feel a little bit better doing those diets. But I eventually found the Weston A. Price diet, which I agree. The Weston A. Price diet is the best diet somebody can follow. It's like literally, I don't know how nutrition's got so complicated nowadays. It's just like looking at what foods have more nutrients. It's like really that simple. So yeah, following that diet is the best diet. And I did feel a little bit better, but I was still, if you go watch like some of my old videos that are still online, like you can see my cheekbones. I mean, it looks like I would break a rib if I sneezed hard enough. Like I have less weight on me than like POW survived. Like I don't know how people weren't more concerned about how skinny I was or even listened to me. But I was functional. And then I was doing Heal Your Gut Guy, and I just realized like there's just some people, no matter how perfect they eat, how perfect they disinfect and detox and all that holistic stuff, they just won't get better. And then, I eventually stumbled across like how stress affects the gut. And I started doing that badly. I started doing that poorly. I didn't know anything. I was just starting out, and I gained 30 pounds like within the first 6 months, like, easily. So, and so that's when I made the full shift. Like I can get somebody better with them eating McDonald's every single meal, like no joke, if they deal with the stress. If somebody does not deal with the stress and eats a perfect diet, they will not get better. That's just the hard math. If people don't want to believe it, it is what it is. So, but that's how it is.
That's fascinating. Dude, when you mentioned the Weston A. Price diet, could we just unpack that real quick? What does that diet entail?
Well, Weston A. Price was a dentist in the 1930s. He was a brilliant man. He wanted to know what caused cavities, and he would look in his National Geographic magazine. That was, think about it, we barely had radio. There was no TVs back then, so that was like, he's like, why are their teeth perfect? Like everybody's teeth is perfect in this magazine. So that think of like the Ford Model T. There's no highways yet, like in America. Like that's like, so he I don't know. He was like 60 when he did this, and he traveled to the first place he went was the Swiss Alps, and he visited these isolated Swiss valleys. And when he found that people were on their ancestral diet, they had perfectly straight teeth. Basically zero cavities. Like, I'm not even kidding. They had like zero cavities, and they were in overall good health. And then when he visited the villages that were on modern foods, they were in very poor health. But I would like to point out, the people who were on the modern diet were on a terrible diet. They were eating like sugar, white bread, coffee, and chocolate, and like their diet was like atrocious. Like it was like really bad. It wasn't like our modern diet today is like much better than like what some of these modern places were eating. But he went to Africa. He went to some like isolated Scottish islands. He went to, I said Alaska. He went to Malaysia. He went to Africa. He went to New Zealand. He went to Australia to visit the Aboriginal, and he just saw the same thing everywhere he went. But again, I followed that diet and I didn't get better. So, and to me, like, yeah, you can give all the nutrients you need, but the thing is when those isolated villages, their way of life, because when the modern culture came into their villages, it would just literally wreck their life, wreck their social structure, and just do mayhem on their body. Just start putting organs in out of overdrive, and they're all messed up. I think that was a big thing he didn't factor in, but otherwise, that's the perfect human. He measured all the nutrients in the food, but to sum it up very quickly, they all ate starches. Starches was like 50% of their meal, with every single meal, 50% of their meal. People like to misquote that all the time, but they did. Um, Organ meats, seafood, dairy, raw dairy, and then seasonal fruits and vegetables. But the majority of the nutrients is going to be in the starches, in the organ meats, and the dairy. That's where the majority of the nutrients is. There's no nutrients in vegetables.
What's interesting is, as effective as this diet is, I didn't hear any mention of like a focus on fiber. Is that something that you feel is important as well? Like when it comes to like recovering from gut issues, or just making sure you're optimizing your overall gut microbiome?
I mean, no. Fiber might form up somebody's stool if they have diarrhea, but like fiber is something I never factored in. And if you're constipated, probably fiber is going to make it harder to push through.
Because you have
Yeah, and again, we can talk about the gut microbiome, because that's another thing that's the holistic medicine and modern medicine totally do not have a grip on.
Oh yeah. That's super key. Like I think first, Michael, I would love to learn a little bit more about like just the intricacies of your story, right? So early on,
Okay.
like I would love to hear from you, like what were like the early on signs that kind of told you, all right, something is going wrong in my body, all the way to understanding, all right, no, I got to really fix this. Let me find a solution.
Well, I mean, I had digestive issues my whole life. Like I always had diarrhea. I was always skinny. And it really it was an issue, but like it really didn't become an issue where I had to go to the doctors. Like I started getting like really sick like every Christmas break. Like I would just be like stuck in bed all Christmas break, and it would take me like a week to recover. So that started like at the end of college, like that started happening like almost every Christmas break. And then a perianal, the big thing that got me into the doctor though was a perianal fistula showed up. And I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like a second butthole, like I just had this pimple start to show up near my butt, and it just oozed pus and blood all day. And it's like, that's not a pimple. And there's like a track, like it's, so that's when I went to the doctor and I got diagnosed. Luckily that went pretty quickly, but I had inflammation in the stomach, gallbladder, all throughout the small intestine. And I pretty much had it in all of my colon as well. I think only like my transverse colon wasn't inflamed. But I was in pretty good shape considering like what you saw on paper. Like I wasn't like pooping blood, but yeah. So yeah, in college, like I didn't want to take the biologics, but eventually I caved and went on them. Didn't really see a difference. Got stuck with a huge bill, for Remicade or something. It was like $5,000. I was like, I'm not paying for this. This is nuts. And that's when I kind of started doing the different diets. And I did diets for, I don't know, maybe a decade or something. Diets and disinfecting and detoxing and all the different supplements. And it wasn't until I started, digging into the like pre-1930s studies on Crohn's and colitis and IBS. Most of them are trauma based. They're like, this person came into the hospital after their boyfriend broke up with them, or they went through a divorce, or they lost their job. They won't admit it. You got to dig it out of them. But like I started and my traumatic events weren't so cut and dry, so it wasn't like so obvious to me. But I started seeing that in the people I was working with. It was like clockwork. It's like always after something stressful. So you don't see it at first, but if you guys don't like, oh, I'm not traumatized. Usually the things that traumatize us just make us super angry. It's not very masculine. I don't get traumatized. Girls are usually more ready and willing to be like, oh yeah, that was very stressful. But usually you'll hear people saying like, yeah, during the most stressed out, awful times of my life, that, that's when their gut issues started. And when my gut issues started to get bad, that's when I started dating and, going through breakups and stuff like that. And so
and that must have added fuel to the fire. So from the fistula to like the Crohn's diagnosis, like that exacerbation of issues, like that was you would say it was just 100% accredited to um like just like this the hustle and bustle and the stress and toll mentally, correct?
Yeah, my case study isn't like is more complicated than most, but I think my perianal fistula was linked to like a breakup in high school and in college. Um, my most of my gut issues were from my gallbladder, which is a territorial anger, and that usually gets set up in childhood. So, and I don't know exactly what it was. It could have been me getting thrown into daycare. That's super traumatic for kids. Is you're literally can't even walk and you're thrown in a day. You're like literally thrown into like a Fortnite lobby. You're like I don't know why. Like so. And I always hated school. I was always fighting with the teachers and stuff like that. So I kind of like territory. It's kind of an advanced German new medicine topic to talk about, but like it's like somebody is like misbehaving in my territory and like I want to fight back but I shouldn't or I can't for whatever I can't like fight back with my parents or fight back at the teacher because things are just going to get worse. So your body's just like you can't do anything about it, so I guess we gotta help him out somehow. So territorial anger goes to the gallbladder to the stomach.
Like no one like I'm not joking, Michael. I have spoken to so many people. No one has this knowledge. Like when it comes to like territorial anger, I wanted to see. I wish if you can expand a little bit on that. What are like if I had to ask like the top five different I don't even know how to say it, if it's like chakras or center zones in our body, like you mentioned the gallbladder, that might be associated with certain traumas or us bottling emotions, what would those be?
Yeah, I'm not good with chakras or
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that, but I can.
yeah.
So we're literally a survival machine. All we're trying to do is survive. So we're literally trying to thrive and survive. Our brain is constantly scanning for like, will this kill me? No. Will it help me? No. All right, I don't need this. Like we're it's like it's constantly. Can I reproduce with that person? Are they going to steal my partner? Are they going to kill me? I'm like it's constantly like safe, 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 danger, 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 and each organ has a survival purpose that over evolution has. So the life has been on Earth for about 2 billion years, we suspect. And for a long time, there was enough space for everybody to roam free and, there was no conflict. But at some point, things got a little crowded. And now the territory, like, oh, my dog's being territorial, he's just being a butthead. No, if he doesn't have a territory, he is dead. If you don't have a territory, you don't have a place to shit. You don't have a place to pee. You don't have a place to sleep. You don't have a place to reproduce. You don't have a place to eat. Protecting your people don't understand this because like we don't have like these concepts anymore. But think about it, like territory is really the only thing nations go to war for and millions of people over. Territory is it's so and men and women occupy have different territorial roles. And so the men is to provide and to protect. And you're also kind of like you're in the hierarchy. This is where it's getting like it's like super like psychology and stuff like that. But like this ancient programming is in our head. We're just like monkeys that can talk, essentially. And you'll like yeah, like we have this territorial programming inside of us, and it's driving our behavior 24/7, whether we want to admit to it or not. So, but the one that starts up gut issues is territorial anger. Like, you're this. Who's this guy? This guy is on the hockey team. He just came into I was the captain. Now he wants to be the captain. You see it like in movies all the time. It doesn't always start a gallbladder program. But if like one day if he catches you off guard and like slaps you in the face in front of everybody, maybe and again, it depends on how you subconsciously experience it. So, but yeah, if you start having gallbladder issues, the first thing that I do is like, okay, when did they start and what was stressing you out when it started?
Got it.
So
I think that's a perfect segue.
I went a little all over the place, but that was
no, man, I love it because it does provide context as to like how you kind of leverage this deep knowledge of like the primitive brain that's within our body. We never really sit down and reflect on how we have certain tendencies that are just hardwired in us to cope with certain flight or fight situations, and that does have a toll in our body that we might not be able to see right now, but it can exacerbate over time and then manifest as a gut issue. But I loved how you just opened up about how usually when you are with a client, right, that first question is, all right, what's the problem? And they'll probably share that with you, whatever specific gut issue that is. And you're just trying to understand not exactly how you can give them like short-term relief or like kind of numb their symptom. Like if they have diarrhea, like, all right, dude, did you take an Imodium? Or if they have constipation, like, all right, did you take a laxative? Which is unfortunately what a lot of healers might do, because that's just kind of the best course of action in their mind. But you have a bit more bird's view perspective where you're like, hey, what were you doing when you started getting these issues, when these issues started manifesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I do, like, I'll get on a Zoom call with somebody like this, and first I try to figure out like what condition they have, because sometimes you'll get it, like if like, hey, I got Crohn's. What the hell? What does that mean? Like literally anything could be inflamed, like from stomach. So I try to get an idea of like what organs are affected, and usually that doesn't take too long. And sometimes people don't know what they have, but usually from like their labs and like from their symptoms, I can make a pretty educated guess on what's going on. But yeah, the most important thing is like I'll literally like open up a Word document and have so they can see it. I see other people do this and they just like talk it out. I'm like, you guys crazy? Like, how you can't do this? Like even Stephen Hawking can't do this. Like you need to write this stuff out. And so I'll write it out, and like I'm not even kidding. Like sometimes for like 3 sessions, like we spend the majority of the time, because you'll think it's one thing. Like one guy was like, oh, it was, after this breakup, my symptoms started and, they got worse and they got better. And I'm like, wait a second, like you went through a breakup here and you didn't get symptoms. I don't think it's the breakup. Yeah. And this is like, we come to this conclusion after like 2 hours of talking. And then it was like, oh, I signed up for a business course and this guy stole like $2,000 from me. So, and then it's like, okay, it's probably that then. You're always stressed out about, starting a business or something. So, and you keep digging until you'll know you got it when the symptoms ease up. Because a lot of people will stop there. They go, well, it's got to be the breakup, but my symptoms aren't getting better. This doesn't work. You got to keep digging and looking for the patterns.
That's super interesting. It's kind of like you're Michael. It's not like it's not just that you're a healer. You're also kind of like a detective, right?
It's a pretty detective.
It's fascinating. It's like one thing that it does prompt me to ask, right? And there's probably like what a lot of people that might be watching this that are struggling with gut issues, they probably might be thinking this. One thing that they're thinking is like, all right, Michael definitely knows what he's talking about. Well, okay, what are the issues that I have in my past that might have triggered, that might have happened around the time I started getting gut issues? But then once they have pinpointed that time or that reason, once they've done it, like immediately, I think that I would just say, Michael, that's in the past. How do I fix that? Like, what's the word? Like, what is the healing once we've identified that the trauma or the incident that had occurred?
Yeah. So one thing I kind of have to, an idea I have to hammer home a lot is it's not just stress. It's not like, oh, I was stressed out. It's a very particular moment in time. I was fighting with my girlfriend for like all year, or whatever, like I was fighting with my ex, or, oh, I was stressed out at work. I always fought with my boss. Let's go with like I was at the most stressful job in my whole entire life. Okay, well, you worked at that job for a whole year. The first 6 months you didn't have gut issues. Why'd you have gut issues the second part? Why'd they start in the middle? And then it's like, oh, well, in the middle, we had a holiday party and I was supposed to get a promotion or something, and I didn't get the promotion. Let's say like the person's like, oh, that started when I didn't get the promotion. That's the conflict. We still need to find the shocking event. Did you find out in an email? Did you walk in one day and your rival was in the office? Did, they call everybody to the lunchroom and, he was like standing on like an Olympic podium and, but you should have got, like what was it? Because if it happened in the lunchroom, now maybe every time you walk into the kitchen or the lunchroom, it's like a subconscious reminder and you have to go to the bathroom. And it's like, so like finding that moment is super important. And a lot of people don't get anywhere near close to that moment, yet alone the right thing they were stressed out about. They don't get, most people don't even get to they're like, oh no, I was stressed out with my family. You'll be like looking over there and it might be the work thing. And then once you get to the work thing, you got to find that exact moment. And there's, and when that happens to you, like, it just like takes over your whole life. It's like all you talk about, like you're probably really annoying to all your, oh, is he ever going to shut up about this? And you just like project it onto the rest of your life. Like that wasn't fair. Now life just isn't fair. Everything's not freaking fair, like they're like, that's just how they hallucinate like all their problems or a lot of their problems. And then, a lot of the times, oh, it's just not fair. Like I got better braids than my brother and he gets all this stuff. And now your gut might react to that, even though it was a work issue. And so sometimes shining a light, be like, hey, like, because this is all happening subconsciously. Your conscious mind doesn't know what's going on. Especially with the average person. But like if you can shine a light on that and tell and let people know like, hey, like this is what's causing your digestive issues, that can kind of like snap them out of it sometimes. So that's a big part of it. Then there's also dealing with PTSD triggers, like subconscious PTSD triggers, like I don't know if you want me to go into that right now, but but to simplify it, it's first step is finding the traumatic event. And then the next part, you kind of do these like together is finding the subconscious PTSD triggers. And I'll give you an example of one of mine. Like I was in the mall one time and my girlfriend went to go walk into some candle store I didn't want to go to. In the second, I really wasn't even that annoyed. I was like, yeah, whatever. We got time today. Let's go. And like the second she turned to go in, I got the urge to go to the bathroom. And so I went to the bathroom and I was like, well, when I was little, my mom would take us to the mall and, there was times where she didn't let us buy a certain toy, and then she would go into the candle shop and spend too much time in the candle. And it was just I sound like a brat, and I am, but like it was absolute torture for us. And just making that conscious connection I didn't go to therapy. I didn't go on some therapist's couch and cry about it for a month. Just making that connection stopped me from going like to the bathroom when every time she walks into a candle shop. So sometimes there's stuff like that. Like it wasn't even an issue.
Right. It's what's so interesting is that I really just imagine these conversations that you're having with these different people with gut issues. They really have to be okay with being vulnerable because they really have to be able to share like the intricate parts of them. Where to what you taught me earlier. When it comes to like men specifically, there is like this notion that you're kind of supposed to be tough, hardened, and not too much into the emotions. But the fact that you have to really open up and think about, okay, well, this was an interaction I had with my mom these many years ago, and maybe this is why it's triggering something with my partner. That's like it's tough, man. Like that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to people who were like refugees from Syria and moved to Australia, and like people go through a lot of crazy things. So
that's crazy. One thing that was interesting to me, Michael, was I wanted to know, like, if you can give me like a proportion, like a percentage, what percentage of your time with a client is around this, where it comes to really unpacking their life, figuring out what were the specific incidents, triggers, and traumas that manifested these gut issues, versus actually explaining what the gut issue is that they're having. Like sometimes people just don't even know. Like Ankit, for example, he didn't know what ulcerative colitis was. He's just like, dude, I just have to keep.
Yeah. Well, I normally attract a nerdier, more educated crowd. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare. Like if somebody doesn't know what they have, it's because like they legitimately don't know, but they put a ton of effort into trying to figure it out. The other day I was working with somebody and I was like trying to figure out like what he wanted me to help him with, and he's like, I have diarrhea, and I'm like, okay, how often? It's like twice a day. I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound that bad. Like, what's your problem? Like, I can help you with it, but like, what's the issue? And then he was like, well, I have anxiety when I have to get into the car that I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. And I was like, and it took me, he said it a few times, but it took me a while to realize like that's what he wanted me to help him with. And I'm like, well, have you ever gone to the bathroom in the car and like embarrassed yourself? And he's like, no. A few times I almost did. And I'm like, okay. Well, we got to find the first time that happened. And then I'm kind of like, I was kind of like trying to show his subconscious mind how ridiculous it's being to have like these mini panic. He's a grown man, and he's having like panic attacks, like trying to take his kids out for ice cream because he's afraid he's going to go to the bathroom, even though he never has, and he doesn't even really go to the bathroom all that much. But it all started with there was like some stress at work. He like owned a business, and the first time he's going to take like a big vacation, like this huge like manager, he was like in Disneyland or something, and he had like this manager back home, like literally just causing a ruckus. And that was making his gut go crazy. And they're like trying to do all this crazy, you're like stuck in line for Tower of Terror. And, you're like, I've been waiting here for an hour, but I need to go to the bathroom. And I'm just going, like he was put those were the types of situations that like created this anxiety pattern. But half of that conversation was like trying to figure out like what the issue was. I was like, what do you want me to help you with?
Right. That's interesting. Like, it's so interesting how it's like people are more comfortable opening up with people they don't know versus like their loved ones. That's why I even have like struggle like really helping some of my loved ones, whether it's for IBS-C, like chronic constipation, also with like irritable bowel syndrome. Like it's very hard to have those conversations with people. But what I wanted to dive into, Michael, is I know you have a 13-day, you can say like a protocol, a healing protocol. I was wondering, could you walk us through what that protocol looks like?
Yeah, no, thanks for talking about it. I made it 13 day. It's like a video program, and it has like worksheets where you can just do little exercises. There's something about like writing information down that helps like reorganize the brain. Our culture just isn't well versed on how our body works, how our brain works, and what like if you look up like what an emotion is in a psych dictionary, it's abysmal. Like it's ridiculous. So like I'm really just trying to like install like a lot of like basic information we need to have like an intelligent conversation about this. But like the first part is like laying out the basics of what the body is doing and what the mind is doing. And I laid it out in 13 days so like the brain can slowly absorb, because it can't just absorb all this information at once. And then, I have a few days where I'm taking you through the timeline of a few people. Like I'm doing like case studies, like we spend like a good like 5 days like in that, like, here's an example of colitis people. Here's a bunch of examples of Crohn's people. Here's a bunch of like heartburn people. Like, here's a bunch of constipation people. Like just so like the brain can be like, oh, okay, well, all right, here's a bunch of examples. Okay, like what happened with me? I spend a few days just obliterating all the food craziness. Like I talk about the insanity of how gluten intolerance was invented. Gluten intolerance is literally the dumbest thing in the world.
Really?
Like the story behind gluten intolerance is so dumb. Like it's not even believable. So I just make like, like when we first started on the holistic journey, it's like, oh my God, like people who eat gluten are crazy people. They're killing themselves. They might be slashing their wrists. It's like, no, like now it's like anytime I see someone eating gluten-free products, I'm like, oh my God, this person, like, come on, man. Like, it's like it's like, it's like the exact opposite. Like, come on, it's like gluten. Like, come on, it's fine. It's bread. Get over it. I'm not saying people don't react to gluten. People do react to gluten, but we need to recognize that it's a brain issue, and there's not something chemically, even if it is sprayed with glyphosate, as long as you're not bathing in the glyphosate, like it's going to be okay to eat, wheat, in my book. So, I think I sidetracked myself a little bit. What was the question again?
The question was a little bit more about the third.
Oh, what's in the protocol?
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of it is focused on deprogramming the food phobias. Because people have watched hours and hours and hours of why this is bad and why that's bad, and then though a lot of it is spent on helping somebody find that trauma, and they might and just how to go about it. Like how to be a detective about it, and then lots of just other very subtle exercises, because you might not have the realization like while you're watching that video, but like a lot of people, I wiggled something loose during that video, and while they're driving later that day or while they're eating or in the shower, it's like, oh my God, yeah, in high school this this and this and that happened. Like it takes time for the brain to make these realizations. Like it's like pulling weeds sometimes. Like,
Yeah, like
so it softens up the soil, the 13-day protocol,
Yeah.
the brain, for these little memories to float up.
Makes sense. And what's super fascinating is like this idea of deprogramming from food phobias. I was wondering if you can expand on that a little bit. Like if you can just explain like maybe like a 3-minute like crash course on what is it that like there is a strong narrative behind the fact that there are certain foods that we should stay away from. But yeah, we sometimes it does go into overkill. Like for example, my grandma, she has some arthritis, right? So inflammation of the joints. And her dietitian, and my grandma's a really healthy, very healthy woman. She does her yoga, and she's but sometimes over the past 2 3 years, there are times where she gets breathless for no reason, or she'll have so much pain in her shoulder that she just needs someone to just at least massage for like at least 2 minutes so she can start breathing again. And her dietitian, after listening to her full story and spiel, she literally took out half the foods that my grandma enjoyed. And
Oh yeah,
I didn't
yeah, yeah,
understand that. Like she's like, you can't have avocados now. I was like, why? She's been having them for the past
yeah,
4 years.
yeah.
She's fine. And there were like small foods like that, and even milk. Like she enjoys having a little glass of milk at the end of the night. And they're like, no, you can't have that. That's bad for inflammation.
Yeah. What's your background? Like, what's your nest? Like, what's your? Yeah,
Indian.
you're a dairy intolerant. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm so grateful you said that. It's like because of our ethnicity and because of our upbringing, our gut microbiome is curated in a different way, right? There's even like genetics involved. Our bodies is predisposed to digest certain foods a little better. So I was like, dude, how is it like that we can get just more clarity on the truth here?
The food stuff is, I mean, really the big thing that deprograms the food stuff is, I try to show them like a lot of like hard science. Like I've lost count of like all the studies that show like it's clearly linked to trauma. So like that's like starting to be like, oh, hey, somebody, that has like a stamp of approval, with some authority showed me this. But it's, one day I don't know where I was, but I was eating a piece of bread, and the person, we were like meeting with friends or something, and the woman in front of me she was Christian, she was Ukrainian, and she was like kind of judging me for, being like a health expert and like eating, like literal like normal food. She's like, you're not a health expert, you're like literally eating like a McDonald's hamburger. And I'm like, you're eating a gluten-free cookie and you're afraid of wheat. You're Ukrainian. You have the Ukrainian flag. It stands for, there's a blue stripe on the top, and on the bottom it's yellow, which stands for fields of golden wheat. And in the the so-called book you believe in, you're wearing a little cross right there. The book you believe in, the disciples are eating uncooked wheat kernels, and they're eating even like unfermented bread, like not even like sourdough bread. Oh, but the glyphosate, well, later on in the book it says like you can survive poison. So like come on. And like you just, and when you get into the history of, and it's like, okay, let's take that a little bit further. If your grandma saw you turning away a loaf of bread, she would take the broom, and what's the broom made out of? It's made out of straw, wheat straw. She would take that wheat straw broom and beat you silly with it, and she should. And guess what? If you go a little bit further back in time, you guys slept in a wheat straw bed. You fed your cattle wheat. The roof over your head was wheat. I mean, everything, your whole life revolved around wheat. And now all of a sudden it's literally obnoxious. Like, the word celiac, which today means gluten intolerance. Celiac literally just means gut. It's like gut. It's like the word for gut, but in Greek. So like back in Hippocrates' time, if somebody had gut issues, they didn't have colonoscopies and all this stuff, so they would just say, oh, he has gut issues. They say you have celiac. So for 2,000 years, celiac just meant you had gut issues. And then some bonehead in the 1950s decided that it should be gluten intolerant. They should just rebrand it to gluten intolerance. And his name was William Dickey. I think he was a Dane. I think he was from Denmark. So during World War II, he ran a children's hospital and they were all these kids were super stressed out. It's during World War II, occupied by the Nazis. And all these kids had gut issues, and going gluten free wasn't even an option for most of these. It was like the only thing to eat, and somehow he got into his little head that it was caused by gluten, and just made it his life's mission to spread gluten intolerance awareness after the war. So, and then some other Italian doctor in the 90s, an Italian doctor. It's like, that's all you eat is wheat. Some Italian doctor made it popular in the 90s. So, but I mean, some people do react to gluten, but it was somehow involved. Maybe you were eating a cookie when you got attacked by a dog, or maybe there was bread on the table when you caught your significant other on another date. Maybe your mom whacked you over the head with a baguette and embarrassed you in front of you. Somehow wheat was involved in the conflict. But a lot of the times, especially with like colitis people, is they saw blood in the toilet for the first time, and they watched one too many holistic videos, and the first thing to blame is gluten, even though you've had it your whole entire life. But now all of a sudden this one time is bad. We have
Here he goes. We have a guest.
We have a guest.
All right.
Here's our guest. Our guest of honor.
Well,
hi.
God grace, he doesn't
You're gonna be quiet.
Any gut issues. He's happy than ever.
I think he has a little bit of gallbladder issues, but he's going through a transition right now.
Oh yeah,
he was probably fighting with the pups, and he was a part of a litter of 9. So.
Well, he's got the best expert for it, man.
But it's fun watching their behavior, because it really kind of helps you. He has separation anxiety, right. And like, oh, what a baby, dude. If he gets left outside alone, he's a fucking goner. He should have separation anxiety.
Right.
But I was one last analogy. If I beat my dog with a newspaper, it's gonna be afraid of newspapers because it has negative memories associated. Like it's just like what's that guy's name? Sorry. Whether somebody believes a food is good or bad is like literally like the most basic psychology ever. Do they think it's going to be good for them, or do they think it's going to be bad for them? It's like Pavlov's dogs. Everything is, we're conditioned. We're conditioned, like if you look up like dog training videos, like to get them to sit, like literally they just bribe them with food. A good dog trainer. Or you could beat them, but if you beat a dog long enough, they just become scared of everything and they just don't do anything and they don't like you. Like, it's not a good way. You could do it, but it's not a good way to do it. So to get somebody, you just start saying a bunch of negative things about gluten, and then all of a sudden, you want to stay away from bad things, so you stay away from it. But when you can change those beliefs in somebody's head and help them see how ridiculous it is, that fear goes away, and now and when you can help that person believe that it was caused by the trauma, they know it's not the food anymore. And literally, I've seen people like violently react to gluten. If you violently react to a certain food, definitely take caution in bringing it back in. But like, I've seen people go from like eating like 6 very boring, bland foods to literally eating whatever they want. Like my girlfriend, she used to only eat like 6 foods. She literally eats anything she wants.
Definitely gonna tell Ankit this, because Ankit, for context again, my he is basically the reason why he's my best friend. You could say he's a bit like my older brother, and he was always someone I looked up to, and for some reason, because of the gut issues that he had and the ulcerative colitis that he was diagnosed with, he started having this very visceral fear with certain foods, like especially healthy foods like salads and like aloe vera juice and things that are usually good for your gut health. And I'm starting to think after this conversation, Michael, that maybe when he has these healthy foods, he's thinking in his mind, okay, I have gut issues. Hopefully this will help me in some way. And it's like his mind is already in such a fear state of like, I'm eating this. I don't know if I'll enjoy it, but I'm eating it so in the hopes of feeling a little better. Or to your point, maybe there was a trigger, and then I'm going to talk to him about this. And I think
Well,
he went through your 13-day protocol.
I mean, most health foods will make me vomit because they're just so bland
Fascinating,
and
yeah.
boring and disgusting. Like, I don't like them. I was a picky eater growing up. You know, I grew up American, so like, you know, like a lot of the things like my girlfriend grew up eating, you know, over like in the Soviet Union and Moldova, you know, all these like fermented food, like I don't like them. She loves them. I hate them. Just how we were brought up. Like, yeah, like literally I'll be like, what? I don't want to eat them, you know, but like, there's a difference between not liking the taste and like literally thinking that, like, if you think like bread is going to give you colitis, like you literally think bread's going to kill you. And you know, you just have to kill that belief, which, you know, is easier said than done, depending on the person, you know, depending on who you're talking to.
Love it, man. Dude, so wrapping up, I wanted to ask, is there any interesting story or any special client that you like top of mind that you feel like, man, I really changed his life? Well, obviously it's always all through God's grace, but something that you really, really like, it gets to your heart. Like,
I mean, kind of doesn't feel real sometimes, you know, because like a lot of the times, like some people just take the protocol or they'll watch my videos and, you know, I don't hear from them at all. And then, you know, there's some people I've ran into on the street and they're like, are you Mike? I'm like, how? No, yeah. And they're like, dude, like I couldn't get out of bed. Now I'm like back and I'm working right now. But there's been multiple people there's been some people like 3 days away from surgery. Dude, gut surgery almost never goes well. You know, did my protocol instead, you know, went my route instead. They're fine. You know, dude, the surgeries, you're wearing a bag of poop for the rest of your life. You know, he avoid, and it doesn't, half the time it just doesn't even make your symptoms even better, especially if they cut out the wrong part. And yeah, I mean, you know, some of this, you know, some of us think like, you know, like hockey or football or baseball. I think Mr. Beast's Crohn's disease is from, you know, getting cut from the baseball team or something like that. Because I think he was very stressed out and obsessed with baseball. So I'm pretty sure his started with baseball, but like countless people, they got kicked off the soccer team. They got kicked off the American football team, totally wrecked their gut, you know. And, you know, these are people walking skin and bones, couldn't get out of bed. And it's like, you know, some people, you know, they're a little harder to get to than others, but, you know, there's a lot of people who've just gone through the protocol and life is completely back to normal. You know, some people start off, you know, people come into, you know, consume, you know, some people haven't even gone to the doctor yet. Some people have been going to the doctor for years and are frustrated with the doctor. Some people have already told the doctor to, you know, whatever, and they've been doing this holistic stuff forever. So, you know, I hope I catch people, you know, before they even have to go to the doctor. But I remember one of my friends, you know, he never has gut issues. And one time his gut was just like, he's like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And he called, you know, he didn't know what it was. He was panicking and he called me. He goes, should I go carnivore? You know, and I'm like, dude, what was just stressing you out? I'm not kidding you. This was like a 5-minute conversation. And he goes, oh, I just kicked my girlfriend out of the house.
yeah,
I couldn't get her out. She wouldn't leave. And she just left. And that's when the pain started. Haven't heard from him. He's fine. That was it. But that right there could have turned into, you know, holistic nut job this, holistic nut job that. And, you know, he could have spent like that literally could have changed his identity to be like a holistic nutbag for the rest of his life.
love it, man. I like that's like one of the biggest value props, Michael. Like when it comes to your protocol, it's like the time you save for people, right? That's like the biggest thing, and time and effort. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for your time, man. I think
Thanks for having me
overall
on.
we learned so much from you. Where can people learn specifically more about you and learn a little bit more about how we can work with you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of free content on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm, trying to post every day there. But all of my best information is inside my 13-day protocol. It's hard for nerdy stuff to get traction online. So, that's where, if I had to do everything all over again, I would do my 13-day protocol. And me and my girlfriend do one-on-one coaching, but we prefer someone to go through the protocol first so that we're speaking the same language. And a lot of the times you don't even need to meet with us, if you do the protocol.
Love it. Love it. So best course of action is 13-day protocol. And then if necessary, upon discretion, then we can do the one-on-one personalized.
Literally the first day of my protocol, that's free, will literally save you thousands of dollars if you're anywhere in your journey, really. It can save you from spending thousands in supplements or doing some crazy expensive. I've heard people pay $5,000 just to get a consultation on black mold. What's there to consult about? You have black mold in your house? Like, what's the... So, yeah. Don't get me worked up. I'm working myself up here, so...
All right, Michael, thank you so much for your time, man. I can't wait to see how many more lives and guts you save. God bless you, bro. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, you're definitely one of the people I look up to. This whole thing that we started, it was really just to make gut health and just knowledge around how to find long-term root cause, like long-term solutions for their issues. More accessible, because people just don't know what to do. And to your point, they're in this negative spiral of years of just trial and error with no success. So, but you're a breath of fresh air, and God bless you. And I hope you, again, kill it, reach millions and millions of people that you're healing, and then a lot more people get to hear your voice, and hopefully, you've changed more lives for the better way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you're doing great work as well, spreading, a lot of, the more people learn that it's caused by, it's more based on trauma, or even just becoming aware of that idea is massive. So
it's huge.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
Awesome.
Well, until next time, man, thank you so much for your time.